Okay, welcome back. This is Unit 1, Lesson 5. This is the last section of the review of algebra. The topic today is solving quadratic equations. Quadratic equations are those nice little things that give you parabolas and have x squared in them, or some variable squared. Okay, these are very useful for lots of different things. They also describe some of the things that actually happen that we talk about later in geometry. So you need to have the ability to solve these. Alright, so here's what we got. Definitions and concepts. A quadratic equation is an equation that can be put in this form. This is the standard form of a quadratic. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where x is a variable and a, b, and c are all constants. In this lesson, we will review the following techniques for solving a quadratic equation. The first one is factoring. The second is quadratic formula. And the last one is the graphing calculator. Any one of these will solve most any of the equations that we're going to come across in geometry. All right, let's take a look at this. One of the interesting things that you need to note here is this. If the highest degree of a variable in an equation is 2, this means that you will have generally 2 answers. Alright, so let's take a look at this. They want us to solve x squared plus 4x minus 12. Okay, they want us to do this by factoring. So what we're going to do is we're going to factor this trinomial using the box method. So the first thing we have to do is find the product, which is going to be negative 12x squared, and the sum that we're looking for is 4x. So this is what we have. This is our equation. So we're going to factor it. In this case, it's relatively simple because 6 times 2 will give me 12. So I have 6 times negative 2 in this case because of this. And the reason I knew that the negative went with the smaller number is because the sign in front of the 4x is positive. So that means the larger factor had to be the positive factor. Okay, so this gives us x plus 6 times the quantity x minus 2 equals 0. So this first thing we have to do is this. When we have this, we have two numbers multiplied together that give us 0 as a result. So this means either this factor or this factor was 0, or both of them are. So we have to find out what makes this one 0 and what makes this one 0. So x plus 6 equals 0 is where we start. Subtract the 6 from both sides gives us simply x equals negative 6. Okay, we do the same process for x minus 2 equals 0. Add the 2 to both sides gives us x equals 2. So the two solutions for this equation is negative 6 and 2. Okay, let's take a look at example 2. It's a little bit more complicated. So this time we're going to go ahead and put the box here. So we know that 8x squared goes here and negative 3 here. So we multiply these together to get the product that we need to know about, which in this case is going to be negative 24x squared. The sum is going to be this term right here, which is negative 2x. So this means whatever these two numbers are have to add together to give us negative 2x. So this means the larger of those two terms will be the negative in this case. So we go ahead and fill this in. 8x squared goes here, negative 3 goes here. Okay, what we need to know is what two things can I multiply together that's going to give me negative 24 that will have a difference of 2. Okay, so that would come out to 6 and 4. So once again, since this is negative, it means the larger of these two terms are the 6x gets the negative. Okay, then we need to get our greatest common factors. So we have the factors of this trinomial. Okay, so the greatest common factor here is 4x. The greatest common factor here is simply negative 3. The greatest common factor going across here is 2x, and the greatest common factor going across here is 1. So that means this thing up here will factor into the terms 4x minus 3 times 2x plus 1. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put that together right here, just like that. Once again, this is a number, this is a number. These two numbers multiplied together are telling us that that's equal to 0. Okay, since that's the case, I need to know what makes this number 0 and what makes this number 0. That will give me the two solutions to my quadratic. So we start out with 4x minus 3 equals 0. Add the 3 to both sides of this equation, gives us 4x equals 3. Divide both sides by 4, gives us x is equal to 3/4. Okay, now we need to evaluate what makes 2x plus 1 0. So we start out with 2x plus 1 equals 0. Subtract the 1 from both sides, gives us 2x equals negative 1. Divide both sides by the 2, gives us x is equal to negative 1/2. So the two solutions here are 3/4 and negative 1/2. If we place either one of these numbers into here for x, we will get 0. Okay? Some quadratics you just can't factor. Okay, so in that case, what you want to do is you want to use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is this nice little thing right here. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. All of this is divided by 2a. Okay? These refer to the coefficients in the standard form of the quadratic that we talked about a little bit earlier. Okay? So if you want to use this, the advantage to this thing is it works every time. So let's take a look here. So they want us to solve x squared plus 10x plus 24 equals 0. And they want us to specifically use the quadratic formula. So what this does is we need to identify a, b, and c. So a is equal to 1, b is equal to 10, and c is equal to 24. So now we write our formula down and we plug them in. The a goes in here and here, the b goes in here, here, and the c goes in right here. Okay? So let's go ahead and see what that gives us. That gives us negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 10 squared minus 4 times 1 times 24. All of this divided by 2 times 1. So we simplify this. This gives us negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 100 minus 96 divided by 2, which is going to give us negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 4 divided by 2. Which is going to give us this. So we have x is equal to negative 10 plus or minus 2 divided by 2. So we're going to take care of the positive version first. So we have negative 10 plus 2 over 2 gives us negative 8 over 2, which reduces to x is equal to negative 4. The other one is going to be x is equal to negative 10 minus 2 over 2. Which gives us x is equal to negative 12 over 2, which tells us that x is equal to negative 6. So the two solutions here will be negative 4 and negative 6. Okay, example 4. This time we're going to solve 2x squared plus 3x minus 2 equals 0, once again using the quadratic formula. So the first place to start is identify your a, b, and c. So a is equal to 2, b is equal to 3, and c is equal to negative 2. Once again, here's our quadratic formula. So we're going to substitute these in. This gives us x is equal to negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 2. All of this divided by 2 times 2. So this gives me negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 plus 16, all divided by 4. Simplify a little farther, gives us negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 25 divided by 4. So this gives me negative 3 plus or minus 5 divided by 4, which the positive version of this is going to give me negative 3 plus 5 over 4, which is positive 2 over 4, which is 1/2. Okay, the negative version of this will be negative 3 minus 5 over 4. Gives me negative 8 over 4, which gives me negative 2. Okay, so the two roots here, or the solutions, are going to be 1/2 and negative 2. Alright, another concept that you need to know here, that is another way that you can solve these if you can resolve it closely enough, is that quadratic equations can easily be solved using a graphing calculator by first graphing the quadratic function and then finding the zeros. In other words, where does it cross the x-axis? Okay, so when you put it into the calculator, you're looking to see, this is the x-axis. When you graph it, you're looking to see where they cross. This is R1, which means root 1, and R2 stands for root 2. Okay, so this and this will both be solutions to the function. Okay, let's take a look and see how this works. Example 5, use a graphing calculator to find the roots or the zeros of y equals negative x squared minus 8x minus 10. Make a sketch of the calculator display and label the roots. Okay, so what you do is you go ahead and put this into the y equals on your calculator, and then you tell it to graph. Okay, when you graph this one, it's going to look something like this. Okay, there is a way that you can find this very closely. I will show that to you in class. The first root is negative 6.4495, and that's where it crosses the x-axis here. Okay, the x-axis is also crossed at root 2, which is negative 1.5505. Okay, so if we place either one of these into this original equation for x, we will get 0 for y, and that's what you're looking to find. Okay, there are some special cases that you run into. Like I said earlier, a lot of times, or most of the time, whenever you have something that has an x squared in it, a y squared, or whatever you're solving for, the parabola will cross the axis in two places, which means that you will always generally have two roots. A double root occurs if you graph it and it only touches the x-axis at one point. Okay, so since it only touches at one point, which would also be the vertex of the parabola, that means that both roots are the same. Okay, the other one is the no solution situation. No solution means the parabola never crosses the x-axis. Okay, so since it never crosses the x-axis, there are no real roots, which means when it's talking about what kind of numbers. Okay, but there are two roots that are imaginary. Okay, and this is what it would look like if you graph that. Notice it does not touch the x-axis. Okay, imaginary roots are things that you will discuss further in Algebra 2, because those are related to imaginary numbers, which is a topic that Algebra 2 covers. Okay, thank you very much. This is the end of the algebra review for geometry. This is Unit 1, Section 5, Lesson 5, and be sure you're ready for your WSQ tomorrow, which means what did you watch, your summary of it, and a question that you expect on the test from. Thank you very much. Goodbye.